Hello and welcome back to another episode of Strong Collectors Comics. My name is Jordan and I'm joined today as ever by my plucky co-host Dakota. Now we've recently gotten the news that Jason Mamoa, formerly known as Aquaman in the DCEU, will be making the jump to James Gunn's DCU as Lobo. Personally, I think we feel like that's a bit of a better fit. However, it's got us thinking, are there any other roles for the DCEU actors to rise from the grave and come over into James Gunn's DCU? Now, we've got probably the core members of who you think of in those movies that we will go through. Maybe some add-ons as we get through them. But I think we'll maybe just go back and forth and see who we could reimagine any of these actors carrying over. Now, I don't mind the idea of these characters coming over Dakota. I don't think I definitely necessarily want to see them all, but I was thinking more like if I had to fit them in, right? This isn't like a cast wish list by any means for me. But if we
They're
had
contractually obligated to fulfill 10 movies, and we've got to fit them in these other movies. Right.
Yes, they got to fit in somewhere. So we're going to start with maybe one of the lesser actors that weren't as prominent, with Jesse Eisenberg, work our way up to Ray Fisher, who was Cyborg, Ezra Miller, that was The Flash, Gal Gadot, that was Wonder Woman, Ben Affleck, of course, was Batman, and Henry Cavill was Superman. So Jesse Eisenberg will not be playing Lex Luthor. Dakota thinks he will be playing.
I'm casting him as Max Lord because I think he's kind of got that like smart vibe. Got a little bit of mind control powers there.
Right.
We set him up maybe a couple movies, and then we get into Crisis where he flips the script, and then we end with Wonder Woman snapping his neck.
Okay. Jesse Eisenberg. I could see the similarities with him switching over to a Max Lord. I do believe that James Gunn's already got Max Lord cast, though, Dakota.
Oh, does he?
To Crush Your Dreams. He's got Sean Gunn, who has played, he was Kraglin in the MCU movies.
Right. Okay.
Which,
wasn't he Weasel, too?
He's also the motion capture for Weasel, and he does G.I. Robot in Creature Commandos. So he's doing, like, triple duty now. I think he can get away with that.
I like my casting better, but...
Yeah. I think that would be a good call, actually, now that you mention it. So, yeah, I think he's a good actor. I think he just needed better material, maybe. I'm going to flip the script a little bit. I'm not going to go with a villain, Dakota. I'm going with a hero for Jesse Eisenberg, and I'm hitting you with Dead Man. Okay? So I think he's a pretty versatile actor, and I think he could play. Obviously, he's got a chalk white face the whole time. I'm almost thinking more like, how could you not make him as prominent with their face in some measure? And I think Dead Man, I think Jesse Eisenberg could bring that kind of haunted, detached. He's going through a lot, but also with some humor, because I think Dead Man also kind of has some like dark comedy, some funny moments of levity that I think Jesse Eisenberg is actually pretty funny and can play with pretty well.
I like that. That's a good one.
Now, Ray Fisher, I did like him as Cyborg, I gotta say. I didn't know about Cyborg being included there, but I think he's a good actor, and what I really liked was his voice. Like, I think he could do that deep, almost monotone, but still bring some inflection to it. So we're going to up his role a little bit, and I'm going to hit you with the Monitor. So someday we're going to get to this Infinite Crisis. James Gunn's going to build to it, and that'll be long enough that Ray Fisher will come back. You know, maybe we'll get him done up in that cool regal suit he's got to collect the heroes and to help them fight the Anti-Monitor is my pick.
That's a good pick. I was thinking similar in the, but I'm casting him sooner, so I need him to still be a little younger. I'm casting him as Batwing. Okay. Because that's one of the like newer additions to the Bat family that I think is super cool and I think would actually play well in live action. Similar, like, kind of like a mashup of Batman and Iron Man. I think that'd be super fun to play Batwing, but like you need a little bit younger-ish, like not like kid, like he's Cyborg, kind of just fresh off of losing the college scholarship for football type of thing, but you know, something with the Bat mantle, and you can kind of like start putting together like a cool Batman Incorporated type of movie. So I think that would be a lot of fun, and I think he's got the ability to kind of play the like more dark, brooding Batman
Yeah.
type when he's in costume, but then he can also kind of like put on a little bit more of the charm when he's out in civilian form.
Right. So kind of some more duality. Yeah, it'd probably give him a little more to do than he had as Cyborg. So
Right.
I could see that. I'm sticking with his monotoneness for Monitor, but Batwing I think would be fun to see.
So then moving up into Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller's always just had like a really snake-like feel to me for some reason in all of his roles. They're not really supposed to be. Like Flash isn't supposed to be snaky, but Ezra Miller is just snaky to me. So I'm going to cast him as Copperhead. Not really somebody you see too often, I don't think, in DC, but he was kind of a bigger deal in the animated Justice League cartoons. So I'm putting Ezra Miller in a snaky role as Copperhead.
I also had a more kind of villainous turn for him. Isn't Copperhead? He's a villain, right?
Yeah, he's a villain.
Yeah, okay. I had a villainous turn for Ezra Miller as well. This one, I was going to throw out Victor Zsasz. I just feel like I could see him playing some kind of just totally unhinged. Make it totally different than The Flash. You know, he shaves his head. But I feel like Ezra Miller could actually do something cool with just having a little more freedom to just go totally wild with that character and give him some more versatility. Another one I was considering if I had to would be Plastic Man. I don't think I'd love him taking on Plastic Man, but I was just trying to think something maybe like kind of a more jokey character. But I couldn't land on one that I thought would translate well. So I'm going to go with Victor Zsasz, though. We'll give him a Plastic Man audition, but he's not going to get the part, I don't think.
Okay.
But I think a villain would be good for that one. Next one we got is Gal Gadot. Now, I really don't think she's the best actress, Dakota. I'm going to admit. I think...
I don't mind when she's in movies.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, there aren't things that would be a box office draw. But I'm going to give her a role that maybe doesn't require as much complicated acting, and I'm going to go with Maxima, if you remember that character. She's kind of the red-headed space warrior princess. I remember her where she's always trying to get Superman to marry her and fall in love with him so they can have like a Kryptonian heir, which I think would be kind of a funny turn because I do think she's funny, and I think you could play with like the goofiness of like she was Wonder Woman, now she's this kind of space princess that's always trying to hit on Superman, and it's kind of funny, but then you could kind of start to develop her into more of her own character.
Interesting.
That'd be my pick there.
Yeah. Okay. So you went with kind of a lover of Superman. I went with a lover of Batman, and I'm going to cast her as Talia al Ghul.
Okay. Yeah.
So she's already got the accent. I mean, I don't know what Talia's specific accent needs to be, but she's got an accent.
We don't differentiate it. Once it's there's an accent there. Right.
But I think she's got, with Wonder Woman, she has like those fighting scenes and stuff. Give her a sword again, throw in the mix with some ninjas, have her do a little fight scene with Batman, mother to Damian Wayne. I think it'd be pretty cool because she's kind of got that like. I feel like it'd be easy for her to have that like air of superiority as Talia al Ghul, daughter to the demon's head type of thing. I think it could work pretty well.
It'd be fun for her to be a little more villainous too. I think it'd be, so I could see that being interesting also.
Then we're up to Ben Affleck now.
That's where we are. Here we
no
are.
more Batman for Ben Affleck. So Ben Affleck in my DC movie is going to be playing Etrigan.
Ooh,
so I think he would be kind of cool.
like that.
What's his name even? Like the non-Etrigan, what's the human form? Jason Blood? Is that his name?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's right.
I think he could play a really good Jason Blood, and then you can kind of, he turns into the demon Etrigan, and you kind of have that, like, change his voice a little bit, give it kind of the more fire and brimstone.
Right.
I think that'd be pretty cool.
Ooh, I like that. I love, first of all, the idea of Etrigan coming to the DCU. I think that'd be a great character, but I think that'd be a good turn for him, actually. I could
just see Ben Affleck being kind of, he's just sitting by the fireplace like, oh, I don't want to, and he's just rough and gruff and like
kind of
broody.
grim and haunted and
yeah.
Okay, I like that. That's a good role for him. I went with more of a villain route on Ben Affleck, and I'm going to hit you with Deathstroke, Dakota.
Interesting.
So I think he's kind of getting, you'd have to you'd have to give him the gray hair, give him that eye patch, of course. But I think it could be, to me, a little somewhat similar to his Batman role, where he's kind of older, grizzled, but he could, of course, be a foil to some of our younger heroes that come along. I get more cautious the higher we get, just because it's like they're so prominent in the DCEU. But, maybe we won't get to Deathstroke for a few years, and Ben Affleck can age up a little bit too. And then by the time we get there, maybe he could pull that one off.
Yeah. And then you put the mask on him and stunt double, and there's your fight scenes.
Easy money. So before we get to probably the most prominent DCEU face, Henry Cavill, I've got a couple other characters that maybe could come around. So one that I'm going to go with is Jeremy Irons, Dakota, who played Alfred. I thought he did great as Alfred. In a perfect world, I'd just keep him as Alfred, but I want to recast him. So I'm going to give you two options. One's a little more heroic, and that'd be an Alan Scott. So give him like he's the aged, older, OG Green Lantern that maybe's been here for a while. He's seen some stuff. Or a character that I think he could put a fun twist on as being old, but also a great actor. I always struggle with his name. I know you say Mr. Mxyzptlk, but I think that would be actually amazing to get like an actual high-caliber actor to play a guy like him. I think it would be really fun, and I think he's kind of a funny guy too in different roles. So I almost would rather have him there than Alan Scott.
That's a good idea.
I think. Another one that I've got is our guy Jared Leto. I do think he got, unfortunately, let down by the whole Joker thing. We've talked about that. I think he could have had a shot. But I want to give him another chance at a villain. Again, I've got two thoughts here. One would be Brainiac. I could see him doing kind of like the detached, soulless alien, but also with some villainous flair to him. Or if you wanted to do kind of a more modern edge on this guy, Vandal Savage.
Oh.
Where he's been alive for hundreds of thousands, however long.
Interesting.
And he's kind of like the modern version, but he's kind of totally lost his mind, but he's also could get where he presents kind of well, but then he can get real kooky and out there when he needs to. So
I think this isn't really a part of the game. I'm going off script here, but I think a good Vandal Savage would be Josh Brolin. Like Thanos, right? Cable.
Yeah. He'd be good.
He'd be a good Vandal Savage.
Yeah,
anyway,
I think
back to the regularly scheduled.
I'd rather have
stuff.
that version of him, but and that might be because there's rumors that he was courted for Hal Jordan in Lanterns, but it didn't work. But they want him for another role, so maybe it will be Vandal Savage. And then my third I'm going to go with here is going to be The Rock, and I had two characters I think we could bring him back as, both villains. One, maybe we give him a chance as Trigon. I don't think I totally see it.
Interesting.
But I wanted to throw that out there. And the other one I wanted to give him was Mongol.
That's probably more likely.
I don't want to give him Darkseid because I want a real actor.
No.
Sorry, not a real. Well, yes, I do want a real actor for that. But I think somebody like Mongol, maybe even Trigon, but probably more Mongol, could be. The Rock would never do it, but I think it'd be kind of, he would. Actually, I think it'd be pretty perfect because Mongol kind of always reminded me of a professional wrestler where he comes down, talks a big game, and he kind of fights, but he's not like, going to take over the planet or anything.
Yeah, I mean, like, The Rock can't lose either, so it's kind of hard to cast him as a villain that you just kind of have to, like, have as a tie or just, like, they part ways or something. And it's like you can't have Darkseid and be like, oh, Darkseid didn't technically lose. Anyway. All right, I got my three that are outside of the main cast of characters, and I don't know. Honestly, one of these I didn't even watch the movie, but I'm recasting her anyway. That's going to be Rachel Ziegler. She played Anthena or something in the newer Shazam movie. Again, didn't watch that, but I'm going to recast her as Zatanna. I think people would like to see Zatanna in the newer movies, and I think she would fit the part pretty well. Want to go somebody younger that's still kind of like learning magic, and somebody that can like grow with the character too. Next up is Cara Delevingne. She was Enchantress in the Suicide Squad. I'm going to recast her as Cheetah. So again, I think she played a pretty good Enchantress for what it was supposed to be, but I think Cheetah would be a little bit more like reusable as a character.
Mm-hmm.
We put her in like a movie as somewhat of like the main bad guy, and then put her in with the team ups later on down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And then last up out of these three is going to be John Cena. He was Peacemaker. I'm recasting him as a Amazo. So I think.
Ooh, that is a great cast, actually. Very nice.
Because I think,
Yeah.
you need a big jacked character to play Amazo. Give him the like green vest thing. That could be fun.
Yeah. I'm thinking he's going to be staying on in some capacity as Peacemaker.
Sure.
But
I mean, and I think he
maybe.
does a decent job as Peacemaker too.
You could even work that into the story, though. Maybe somehow they use his likeness or something, and then it's kind of a joke. And then he's like, what the heck?
Have Peacemaker fighting Amazo, and they're both John Cena.
Well, some people... yeah. I do think some people from other roles did good enough. Like, for example, one I was going to say that I think could stay on, he'd play a guy he'd played before, but it'd be Mark Strong, who had played Dr. Sivana, but had also played Sinestro in Green Lantern. And I do think he was a great Sinestro. And I think that movie fizzled out quickly enough that he could get another shot, and it wouldn't bother me. So I think you can make those kind of double duty things. Or even Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Like, I think that's kind of the role she was meant for in these movies. And I think people liked her quite a bit. So
yeah. I thought the guy that did Dr. Fate did a good job, too.
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan, I think he would be just roll him in as Dr. Fate because he was good enough that I like him. So I was, okay, before we get to our last one, I want to ask you, I was thinking of a role for Will Smith. Is there anything that would come to mind for you for Will Smith to take on?
Nothing's jumping out at me because I tried to think of that and I couldn't place him. What do you have?
I was trying to think of him as a villain, and then I was like, what would be a villain that would make him play against a type? For some reason, I saw a picture of him with the facial hair beard, and I went to Hugo Strange.
I could see that. It
It'd
wouldn't
be a little
my
bit of a
first
different
thought,
take.
but yeah.
But I'd almost want to see him play like a bad guy that's actually like bad. He's not misunderstood. He's like, I'm straight up evil. And like see him kind of do something sort of dark. So
yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you have another DC role for Will Smith, because again, we could bring him. Probably too expensive though. Okay, finally, the man himself, Henry Cavill, Dakota. We're gonna recast him in James Gunn DCEU.
Okay, so I've got Henry Cavill as Blackhawk. So I think I don't know exactly how you're gonna work in World War II era style pilots into the DC movies, but I think he would lead the Black Hawk squad very well.
So yeah, well, that would get you away because it'd be like probably a period piece World War II thing, right? Almost. I guess you could maybe bring him in, but that could give you distance where then you don't have to deal with him being like you're the most recognizable guy here.
And I just see him in like the bomber jacket with the hat and the scarf, and
he could pull that off. I think. I like that. That's a good one. For me, in a different way, I was like, he's the most prominent face in the DCEU. How do we get him in these movies? Well, luckily, Dakota, there's a character in the DC comics that you never see his face, really. And that's none other than the Question. Okay, so I think it'd be kind of a meta thing because you'd like never see his face. We can make some jokes about the mustache. But I think he also is a good actor. He did the Sherlock Holmes thing in that Enola Holmes show, so he kind of could do the detective. But I think that would actually be kind of brilliant because then you're not seeing his face, but he could still be it. And I really would like to see them use the Question in the DCU, and I think make him a prominent character, which would be kind of funny because he went from the most powerful character to probably like the most powerless.
Right.
But he'd still have some good stuff to do, and I think that could be a good role. A backup I have, if we wanted to continue with the meta trend, would be to bring him in as Bizarro someday.
Oh, that's cool. I like that.
Because then, and I think James Gunn, too, wouldn't make Bizarros like a one-note dumb, he just shows up and he's gone. It'd be like, build him into a real character, and then you could obviously be playing with the expectation of he looks like Superman, but he's dark Superman.
Yeah, I like that. Those are good.
Yeah. Well, then those are our picks for recasting DCEU actors in the DCU. Let us know in the comments what you think, if there's any you agree with, if there's any characters that you think we missed that would be obvious choices. Please be liking, sharing, and subscribing. And until next time, as always, stay strong.